everyone. My name is Whitney Ward. I live in Greenville, Tennessee, and I'm a senior at ETSU. I had the opportunity to serve at Arrowhead Church this semester. A little bit about the agency is that it's a church plant in Greenville, Tennessee that stemmed from a much larger church in Morristown, Tennessee. It's been around for about a year and a half, and for those of you that aren't familiar with what a church plant is that it's just a very new church, and Morristown planted it here to really just put a new church in Greenville that it felt like it needed and that it wanted. And so for about a year and a half, it's been functioning here as a very new organization. The mission statement of the church is helping people take their next step with Jesus. I think this is a really great mission statement, especially for the church in particular, because the church is so great at just meeting people right where they are in their walk of faith, whether they're at the beginning of that walk or in the middle, or they've been on that walk for many years. Arrowhead is there to meet them and to include them and to help them in whatever they need, and just kind of help build their faith and make it stronger just wherever they are. So a little bit about who the agency serves. There was a study done in 2015 that identified 51% of individuals in Greenville do not affiliate with a church home. So that study alone was one of the biggest reasons that Morristown decided to put a church in Greenville, was to really reach that 51% of individuals. Aside from that, the church really just aims to serve Greenville and the community of Greenville as a whole. And I think it's very successful in doing that, just through a number of outreach programs. To talk a little bit about the outreach programs that Arrowhead does, one of the biggest things is that it's actually the campus ministry of Tusculum College, which is a local college here in Greenville. And they do a service for them at least once a month, and they do various other events for them just throughout the year. Here, I actually volunteered to help give out goodie bags and just a little message, let us be your family away from home, to students at Tusculum College, as many of them are from out of town, and so moving here, they may not know anything about Greenville, and they may have had a church in their hometown or their previous homes, and they aren't familiar enough with Greenville, and they don't have a church home to go to. So it was just to let them know Arrowhead is your campus ministry, and you have a church home in Arrowhead if you want one. Aside from Tusculum College, Arrowhead also has many children's ministries. They have a youth ministry for grades 6 through 12. It's called Fuse. And they have met all over the community, just with multiple kids, playing games with them, doing different activities with them, going places to different conventions and so forth. And they really just meet up with them, and they do activities, and they have talks and little group studies just to bring the Bible to them and bring Jesus to them in a way that's relatable to them, and just to give them counseling and let them know that there's people there for them and to help them in those ages that can be really rough. Aside from just children's ministries and young adults, they also have a lot of adult ministries like growth groups and Bible studies throughout the community for older adults as well. And they also partner specifically with the Hope Center, which is a center for underprivileged families, single mothers, pregnant women that just need help with that process, whether it's just funding or donations or whatever it may be. Arrowhead regularly helps out that organization. A little bit about the funding at Arrowhead is, as it was a church plant in from Morristown, Tennessee, it began with funding from that home church. So just to kind of help it establish itself a little bit and just get it going a little bit on the ground running. So currently it's receiving funding through donations and through a weekly offering. One thing that's really great about Arrowhead is that there's so many volunteers that sacrifice so much of their time and work really hard. And a lot of them are in positions that should really be paid positions, and they volunteer to not be paid so that they can actually give that money that would go to them back to the church, which is a really great and interesting way that Arrowhead continues to be funded by these volunteers who sacrifice their payment for the greater good of the church and for the greater good of the community that they feel really needs that funding more than they do. While I was at Arrowhead, one of the biggest things that Arrowhead did was actually a transition into a new facility. When I first started volunteering there, we were actually in a rented space downtown Greenville that was just rented out on Sunday mornings alone. And this is it here that you can see. So just on Sundays, everything else that they did in the church, whether it was their youth groups or Bible studies or any kind of other events, were held at other people's homes and just held throughout the community wherever they could, because the space was really only for Sunday. So while I was volunteering there, they actually announced that they would be moving into a permanent facility that would be their own, which you can see here in the sign. It says Arrowhead Church, and that is their own building that has really established themselves within the community and really given them a place that's their own and made them more of a permanent organization. I was really lucky to be able to volunteer while this was going on, because I actually was able to volunteer in a lot of construction and the building process of this new building. And even I was a part of the day when they actually moved everything out of the original rented space and moved it into the new space, which was a huge undertaking, but it was really, really great to see. And they received so much help with that process that alone was wonderful to see. Also, while I was at Arrowhead, a program that I was greatly involved in was A-Kids, which is a in-service and also out-of-service program for children, newborns through 5th grade. It was a lot more than a daycare, though, which was what I really loved about it. A-Kids strives to make A-Kids kid-sized, so they really want to bring Jesus and bring the gospel and bring the Bible to these kids in a way that is just the right size for them, in a way that they can understand, in a way that's relatable to them, that could really put roots of this faith in children at the youngest age as possible. And this was challenging for me and also really rewarding, because I've never been particularly great with kids, and it was great to be challenged to come up with activities and games and ways to relate Bible stories and lessons to these kids. So I was really fortunate to be able to be a part of that, and it was something that I spent a lot of time in my volunteering doing. In closing, I just want to talk about the community and the sense of community at Arrowhead. I personally felt the greatest sense of community through the church. You go there and it's so welcoming, and they're so good at their own personal community and inclusion of everyone. I mean, there's such an inclusion of age and socioeconomic status and ethnic background. It's just anyone who walks through the doors is welcome, and they want you to be a part of it. And it's not only just the community within the church, which you can see here, an in-service community of worship, and this is actually the team worshiping and praying before a service. It's not only just within the church, it's without it, outside of it. They really are very present within the community. Even though they've only been around for a year and a half, they are very in the community and really strive to be in the community and be there for so many different people and in groups and other organizations within Greenville. So it was really, really great just to see that. So thank you all.